Hey everyone, Mick back here, this time with the World Music Vinyl tag. Nicely thought up by Steve Carlson, and a really good opportunity to go through the collection and appreciate what I have, because if you don't appreciate what you have nothing. Okay, that's enough philosophy from me. Let's get underway. Okay, first one up is reggae album. Okay. King Tubby meets Rockers Uptown, and this features Augustus Pablo on the Rockers production label out of Kingston. Heavy dub album and a dub classic. We can see the Ethiopian Prince Halassi on the back cover and on the front cover, and he is considered the leader of the Rastafarian religion. King Tubby with some great dub. Okay, second question. Album sung in a different language. Now, I've got a couple here, so I'll start off with Oinches signed in New Baton, and probably the first band that was in another language that I absolutely adored and made sure I got all their records of. These guys are German and feature Blixia Bargeld, who did play a crucial role in Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds for years, as well as fronting this band. Next, I thought of something from earlier in 2024, which is Gordon, and this is their second album, and it's avant folk with an electronic backbeat, and it's a traditional Serbian vocal, but there's heaps of vocalizations as well. So I've had a Germanic language, I've had a Slavic language, and let's go with something a little bit more emotional. And this is Jean Birkin and Serge Gainsbourg, and this is a compilation which features Jitem, which came to me in Australia by way of a chocolate ad. So that's some French language there for us. Okay, next one, album with a tribal beat. Fila, a Ransom Kuti and the Africa 70 with the Kalakuta show. This is original pressing, as we can see there. Key personnel on this one is Tony Allen, who everyone would know drove that beat tribal for Fela for years. Fela would be my favourite world music artist in a broader context, and this is the pictures of the police raid on Fela's house and wound after he was persecuted by the government. Okay, album from the Far East. Well, we all know the Yellow Magic Orchestra from Japan, but they did have some contemporaries, and this one's a favourite of mine. This is P Model, all sung in Japanese, but they too took fantastic advantage of the technology that was coming out of Japan in the late 70s, early 80s. Roland, Korg, all those key companies contributed to making this a fantastic new wave album. Okay, next up, an album that features a sitar. Okay, I had to go with The Master, and I've got a little bit of a story about this particular album. So this is Ravi Shankar at the Monterey International Pop Festival, and there he is with his sitar, and there's tabla on this and tambura, as you would expect. The reason I ended up buying this album was I read once that Michael Stipe said you needed 3 albums. First Velvet's Underground, Patti Smith's Horses, and any Ravi Shankar album. Picked this up from the tip shop in my hometown in 1987, 88. My first introduction to Ravi Shankar. Okay, next one. How about some Scandinavian country? So, what about some Swedish Heat with the Helicopters? This is their first album, super shitty to the max, and probably one of the key rock and punk and roll albums of the 90s. Dragan and Nicky Helicopter are both in fine form on this one. If you like the Stooges, you need this. Interesting fact about the cover is the cover tattoo changes depending which version you have. This one's on the White Jazz label. Okay, next up is an album influenced by Africa. So this is, we have King Sunny Ade, and here he is with his African beats, and this album is called Juju Music. This is a modern take on African music, so not only is performed by Africans, but it is also the 1980s world music take on that particular genre. Okay, next one was a bit different for me, and it's about an album from Australia. So I'm from Australia, but I do think Australian Indigenous albums are horribly underrated on the vinyl community. So I thought I might do something about that. So just before I introduce this album, I do have to just warn people who are First Nations people in Australia that we will be showing images very briefly, just for the broader audience of people who have passed. So you know what to do in that case. Okay, so I present this album by Dr. Jeffrey Yunupingu, known as Garamal. Just quickly, so everyone can see the quick picture there, but we'll focus on the centre here now. Dr. Yunupingu comes from Arnhem Land, and this is in his language album. It's a folk-influenced album, and it does feature his pure voice, and he sings about him being blind, and obviously the persecution that can come from being not only blind but an Indigenous person in Australia. In showing off his guitar, nice inlay there. If you're looking to indulge in some Australian Indigenous artist, certainly Dr. G. Yunupingu is the good place to start. Okay, next up, South American music. How could I go past Tom Z? Interesting story about the cover. It was initially thought to be a marble on a chocolate starfish. However, it is a marble on a lips. One of the things I do like about the Tropicana movement and Brazilian music in particular is that while a military junta is in power, these guys certainly encouraged everyone to dance them down. And I don't think there's a better way to bring people to freedom than through using music and the power of music to make people happy. Okay, next one was an island nation. So I chose the nation which has the most islands, which is Indonesia. And this band is known as Akka, an Indonesian band. They remind me of the Flower Travelling Band, the Japanese psych act, if people are aware of that. However, to give us a bit more context, they're somewhere between James Brown meets a Fuzzy Cream. So if that sounds like your kind of music, this could be definitely for you. The inner sleeve features the 7 inches and album tracks that actually compile this. So from Indonesia, 19, and this covers the period of the early 70s. Akka. Okay, next up was music from the Middle East, And how could I go wrong with a jazz classic by the Prism Music Unit? This one's on Strut, and Strut do some fantastic reissues. And this is Sailor Ragab, and he does play with Sun Ra a little bit later on into his career. This is a reissue, heaps of great information. There's the broader band. Certainly a reissue is what I've had to settle for this. I do think I'd never find something with a cover with this particular artist. Okay, next one was something from a cold country, and I thought I'd go for the coldest country, which is Canada. So Wikipedia tells me. And in this case, I choose something on the Constellation label, which I've recently revisited thanks to various BC members' videos. And this is the Silver Mount Zion Memorial Orchestra and the Trail Ali Band and Choir. Double album. It's avant-garde, but it does contain symphonic and choral arrangements. Fantastic packaging, as you do expect from Constellation. Hopefully I can just show you there the inner booklet. From the coldest country, certainly comes some warm music. Okay, garage rock album. And Steve's direction, his order, was to make it exotic. Well, this is as exotic as I think I can make it. So there's 100 only of these, and it's Renols. And Renols are an Argentinian garage psych band, active in particular in the early 2000s. This is crazed psych with a real garagey flavour. They do have some other albums which are a little bit more experimental, but this is acid-driven garage psych, so definitely worth finding if you get an opportunity. Okay, now the next one I've decided to expand a bit, and it's a favourite album from another country, excluding US, UK and Canada. So I've gone on a bit of a run with these ones, and I thought I'd start with my favourite world music album from last year, which is Madhu Mokta, and this is Funeral for Justice. Madhu Mokta certainly is a known entity, and a lot of people would be aware of this album. I think in another world, these guys could be on SST, but anyway, we get lead guitar, rhythm guitar, backing vocals, but there is a bit of a djembe in there as well. So one of the good 2024 world music releases. Best world music reissue of 2024 should go to this one. And I guess the other thing that made me look at this album by Tuamani Diabaté and Balaki Sissoko is that it was Berserk's favourite album of the 90s. So this Malian album was originally recorded in 1997. Only came out on CD, so nice to get a reissue last year. And my favourite world music archival release of 2024 was by this Ethiopian artist, and it's Emahoy Siege Marian Jebru. This is archival home recordings that she made, and comes with a fantastic booklet, which gives you a heap of information about her. These home recordings, quite primitive, but you do get a feeling of a broader spiritual guidance, and I guess that's also reflected in the back cover. Now, the next three albums are pivotal world music albums in my world, and I guess the Buena Vista Social Club really brought world music back into vogue in the 90s. So this is on World Circuit, which is a label that is run by Nick Gold and certainly brought a lot of prominence to Cuban music, well, to my ears anyway, in the 90s. Next up is my favourite Rolling Stones solo album, and this one's presented by Brian Jones and came out on the Rolling Stones label, can you believe that, in 1971. It's the Panpipes of Jujorka. These guys were sort of discovered by Byron Geisen and introduced to Jones, who reprocessed this album to make it proto-psychedelic but proto-dub as well. Brian Jones, certainly one of my favourite Stones and probably my favourite Stones solo album. And then finally, a bit of a link back to the Velvet Underground. And here we have Pandit Pran Nath undertaking the process of recording some ragas that hadn't been ever recorded before. And he did get permission from his master to record them for the first time. Now, the name that people might have recognised on the album so far is Lamonte Young. And so Lamonte Young played a key part in bringing this to the consciousness of, I guess, the Western world. Lamonte Young does play on tambura on this, but it was recorded by Lamonte Young in New York City, and we all know Lamonte was a collaborator of the Velvet Underground personnel in their early years. Certainly a key and a favourite world music album of mine. And finally, an album where I can't pronounce people's names or read the language. I think I struggle with a couple of things today, but certainly Greece and the language is difficult for me to understand. And in this case here, I'm lucky enough, there's a translation, which does help somewhat. This is the music from the BBC TV series The Lotus Eaters, and it's composed by Stavros Exarchos. Now, that's the Greek writing there, and this one is actually printed in Greece by EMI Greece, so it seems to be a joint production with Columbia. The Lotus Eaters was a spy television series set in Crete. I did see this on Australian television, and certainly I don't know if I enjoyed just the aspect of the music at the time, but certainly when I saw this, it did stick with me. Anyway, very lucky that you do get the English translation, which is all important. Just before I go, I just want to acknowledge how a lot of world music came to me, particularly in the vinyl drought years, and just around me you can see a heap of compilations, Analog Africa, Soundwave, there's a heap of them here. But these labels kept the flame going, not only for vinyl but for world music during I guess from 95 to the vinyl revival. So yeah, thanks to all these guys. And once again, Steve, thanks for putting this together. Fantastic tag. Okay, see everyone soon.